from up to about 1999, the industry was not open up. Apart from the multinationals and GOIL, there were no other indigenous players. In 1999, it was partially deregulated, and then others entered, like Allied, Glory, Fraga, Star, etc., etc. In 2007, when the MPA law was passed, the deregulation was deepened, and more players entered. Before then, the importation of refined products into the country some time ago was handled by GMPC. Then at a point in time, the OMCs themselves, I think between 2003 and 2005, the OMCs themselves were trying to import because TOR could not produce to meet the national demands. And then between 2005 and 2008, it became the obligation of TOR to refine and then also import to meet the national demands. But by 2008, it became obvious that TOR alone could not play this role. So when the NPA law was promulgated, this idea of BDCs, that's bulk distribution companies, that idea was introduced or was brought into the law. That was supposed to bridge the gap between the OMCs, the oil marketing companies, those who own the filling stations, and then the traders, the big guys like Vitol, BP, Trafigura, and others who bring the products to the West African sub-region. So the BDCs became the middle men. And the idea then was they should try to build a capacity to build tank farms, storage facilities, so that we'll have an oil hub in the country. Well, they were playing this role 2007 up to about 13, 14. There were problems under recovery, the foreign exchange problems, and then it was becoming a problem. So at that time, GOIL being a major player, OMC, buying products through BDCs, we were having a lot of problems. Sometimes we were being called upon to pay cash and carry in the oil industry. It is something that never happens anywhere. So we were having a lot of stress. So we decided that, well, if that's the case, we should try and do something for ourselves. So we also try and push for a BDC. The BDC area is a different area which we wouldn't want to concentrate too much. But it has helped in a way to bridge the gap between us and then the OTCs. And then something also happened in the life of GOIL. Between 1989 up to about 1995-96, we had a bit of problem. There was an energy sector master plan, which was to link GOIL, TOR, GMPC, and others. And then the government went for some IDA loan on lend to GOIL to build storage facilities in the country. So storage facilities like the ones that are owned today by BOST at Mamiata, Akosombo, Kumasi, Buipe, and Bolga were built. At that time, we had what we call the World Bank unit. They were handling this IDA facility. By 1994-95, GOIL had finished, with the help of Minister of Energy then, had finished building the farms. And these were loans, sitting on the books of GOIL. And those were the days where the CD was actually depreciating. the type of depreciation we see today, well, is depreciating. But those days too, it was a real depreciation. So the management of GOIL at that time took a decision to run the depots because the assets were lying in our books. We were not using them. And then they were making the books of GOIL, very, very highly geared. at a point in time, the net worth of GOIL was almost negative. It was a debt that we couldn't even pay, but they were sitting in our books. So we started running these depots between 1996 and 1999. In fact, I was the first accountant at that time to run those boss depots. So, but in 1999, the government took a decision to rather take off the assets from the books of GOIL, that is the depots, to form a company called BOSS. So they took off the assets, but what they did was they just value, they got external, valuers to value the assets, took them off. But the actual IDA loan facility, which was used, maybe in running these things, they had administrative costs and other overhead costs. All other costs were left in the books of GOIL. And GOIL was asked to pay, or the company sold. So we were put on the diversia list. Those days, that was, they call it the diversia implementation committee. So GOIL was put in there. And then I remember we were going, almost gone. I don't want to mention the companies that, two companies. One actually came to the country just to buy off GOIL. Another was already here. So the management of GOIL and workers of GOIL at that time said no. We thought the company was a viable one. Why should it be sold? So we also put in a bid. Merchant Bank at that time was our transaction advisor. They helped us put in something. To cut a long story short, our bid also got to high offices. And then the then President Ronnie said, if the people themselves too are interested in buying the thing, then something good must be in there. So to cut a long story short, the deal didn't go through, but GOIL was still on the diversa implementation list because our books were looking bad, our stations horrible. We couldn't get money to pay our debts as they fall due. So a new government came and then decided that instead of selling off GOIL, why don't you give them a plan, a 5-year plan or 6-year plan, so that they could pay off whatever debts are in their books, whatever debts they owe the government. And then after that, we'll decide what to do. So we agreed, management at that time, we agreed, we sat down with Minister of Finance, and over a 6-year period, we were able to pay off the debt. And then the government said, okay, the board then took a decision that we should go and sing no more. We should get listed on the stock exchange. That was why GOIL got listed on the stock exchange in 2007. And I must say, since then, it's been quite an interesting story.